Hello, I'm Rev Brad, and you're listening to the Soccer Chaplains United podcast from the Touchline. During the month of October, we've been featuring different chaplains on the podcast that are new this season in working with Soccer Chaplains United and with their teams. Today, I have special guest Jason Rollins. Jason is the volunteer chaplain to the Colorado Springs Switchbacks FC. They play in the USL Championship. Jason started earlier this year in serving as volunteer chaplain in the place of Kurt Trempert, one of our longest tenured chaplains, who resigned his position last year after serving the Switchbacks for 9 seasons. It's a great conversation, and I've broken it into 2 parts. So in just a moment, Jason and I kick off with part 1.
He's found the space, and he's found the back of the net.
Just a little off foot, thinking he's going to go far post. Not strong enough with his right hand.
Whips that one in. Far post, almost made him ends, and they have. He has the hat-trick. The second in his career. The third of the night. The hat-trick hero.
Talked about you're not going to be able to sustain that kind of pressure.
To the corner. Goes towards the near post. And you're the angle, and what a goal! What a goal!
Jason, welcome to the podcast today. It's great to have you your first time, so welcome.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
This being your first time, Jason, not many people may know you or know about you unless they've read the great story that I wrote on our website, which appeared quite a few months ago. But why don't you share with us a little bit your background, your story, and maybe even how you came into this role with Soccer Chaplains United and serving as the Switchbacks FC chaplain?
Yeah, so one of the hardest questions I've ever had to ask in my life is, where are you from? So my parents were missionaries in Ecuador, and spent most of my childhood, even through high school, living there in Quito, Ecuador. And it's a unique story because my parents were actually dorm parents for the Christian Missionary Alliance. And so they took care of kids that came from all over South America to attend the international school there. And so there was not a boring moment in my life. I went home with my friends. I went to school with my friends. And I lived on a campus that had a soccer field at my disposal. So, obviously when you grow up in South America, soccer is the thing. And being 6'3", most people would think I do other sports. But soccer was what I gravitated towards, and definitely had a skill set in it. And so came back to the U.S. after graduating high school, and played for a school out in New York. Played 4 years of college soccer, and wanted to test the waters at the next level, and made a team in Chicago, and played 2 summers outside of college while I explored what God would have for me. Realized education was really what I wanted to get into, and obviously I wanted to teach so I could coach as well. Coaching was something that was really at my heart. I had been impacted by so many coaches throughout my career that I wanted to be an impact as well. So I've been in coaching for 23 years and been in education for 20 years. And God moved us out to Colorado 13 years ago. And it's really kind of a faith journey of how he brought us out here, but landed at Colorado Springs Christian. And for the 10 years now, I've been the athletic director at Colorado Springs Christian, and serving as a coach as well within the soccer programs. So it's been quite a remarkable journey for us and my wife, and how God has led. My wife was a missionary kid as well, so we had a lot of things in common when we met in college, and so I'm sure we could go on and on about that, but it's really awesome to be able to see how God has moved in our life and guided our ways as he's led us in ways of ministry and in our giftings.
Now, Jason, you're the second chaplain in the history of Colorado Springs Switchbacks FC, and your predecessor, Kurt Trempert, also in the Alliance family, the Christian Missionary Alliance family, but also grew up in Quito, Ecuador. Am I correct? Did you guys cross paths? Did you know each other? Was he one of the kids you were kicking around on that soccer field?
Yeah, so this is a funny story. So when I moved out to Colorado and started teaching here at Colorado Springs Christian, his kids were attending CSCS. And I'll never forget this. I walk into our auditorium, And he greets me and says, "You don't remember me. I'm Kurt Trimpert." And he was at the dorm my first grade year. And he was, I think, in seventh or eighth grade, but he
Okay.
specifically remembers me being annoying because I would drop marbles on the ground and he was on the bottom floor beneath us. And that's his memory of me as being the annoying first grader. I didn't remember him much, but that was the reconnection, so to speak, from when we were childhood acquaintances to
Wow.
coming here to Colorado Springs. And the story evolved from there because his daughter was playing on the soccer team. I became the girls soccer coach. And so I got to coach his daughter, and he came on board with staff and was my assistant coach for, I believe it was about 5 years. And so we really got to develop a unique bond and a friendship. So I consider him a dear friend.
Now you said earlier, you said you're 6'3", so I'm just curious, when did you hit that growth spurt, and were people just throwing you into goal and saying you're the goalkeeper because you're so tall, you're so big?
Yeah, that's a good question. So my parents were actually on home assignment the year that I had the growth spurt. And so I grew 6 inches in 1 year.
Wow.
And I went back home to Quito, Ecuador, and people did not even know who I was. They couldn't even recognize me. So I didn't have a disposition towards being a goalie. We talk about goalies as being unique in soccer. They've got to have a few screws loose. You just got to have that disposition of being willing to throw your body into a difficult situation. And I didn't have that. And so I definitely had skills out on the field that led me towards being more of a field player than a goalie.
Very good, very good. So you and Kurt never played together. You never played soccer together, but you guys coached together at least.
Yes, correct. Yeah, he actually ended up, I think, a year after I was at Quito, Ecuador, in the dorm there. His parents moved to somewhere in Latin America, and so that connection was only for a brief moment while we were kids.
Wow, but what a memory that you were the marble dropper on those
Yeah.
floors. Well, Jason, the connection with Kurt, again, coaching at Colorado Springs Christian School, but that connection kind of led you into your role today. Like, why don't you share a little bit about how we all got connected and how you got connected into Soccer Chaplains United and just being the volunteer chaplain today?
Yeah, well, I'd watched Kurt from a distance be the chaplain of the Switchbacks, and I was always fascinated by that role. And naturally, that led to our connection with you and with Soccer Chaplains United. And I've done several missions trips down to Ecuador just to continue to serve and introduce the CSCS athletes here at CSCS to a cultural worldview, to ministry outside of our state borders. And so that led me to you and opportunities to continue to explore ways that we can serve different ministries and different organizations outside of the US. And so I'm thankful for Soccer Chaplains United and sending tons of gear down to the ministry that we serve down in Ecuador. And so that's really the connection that we started bonding together with Soccer Chaplains United and with you, Brad. And so I'd known about Soccer Chaplains United for quite some time, and just looking on the outside because I had a busy schedule with my life and wasn't sure where those roads would connect down the road, but here we are.
Yeah, I just as you were mentioning that, I was kind of scrolling back through some of the stories on our website and just trying to figure out when was the first time, but it looked like 2017 was maybe one of the first trips that we supported. And talk a little bit about what the group that you guys work with, Cumbre Alta, is that the correct
Yes.
way to pronounce it? Yeah,
Yeah.
say a little bit more about what the work they're doing there in Ecuador.
Yeah. So Cumbre Alta started right around the time that we were leaving Colorado or leaving Illinois to come out to Colorado. So it was started by a former dorm friend of mine who was a little bit younger than me, played college soccer, but wanted to really develop a soccer program in Quito, Ecuador, with the aspiration of playing at the highest level possible and doing ministry within that context. And so right now they're at the Division 3, I believe it is, or maybe Division 4 within the pro ranks in Ecuador. and they just continue to grow and continue to develop. And so one of our key desires was to just help them in ministry. And so as we would go down there, we would support the players, interact with the players, do certain projects that they needed done that we could do with lots of manpower, and just continue to build relationships there. And the relationship has continued to grow. And they actually, Cumbre Alta came to Colorado last summer and did a soccer camp here in Colorado Springs.
Wow.
And so it's neat to be able to see the partnership continue to develop. And Soccer Chaplains United, partnered with us to give gear to the players that really have very little. We talk about all of the things that we have here in the U.S. and around the world, and especially in Ecuador, the players are so limited in the resources that they have. And I'll never forget passing out gear to the players there in Cumbre Alta, and they were just blown away with the quality that they were getting, and they wore it proudly. Even though it said Colorado Rapids on it, they didn't care. They loved it, and they wore it with pride.
Yeah, I remember packing up one of those trips, and you just never know. You're sending gear, and a lot of our American sizes seem to be really big. There's tons of XL that's left over, and you just wonder, who is this going to fit? Will it fit the right person? But the Lord knows all those things. So it's great to hear. Well, Jason, share a little bit more, just in being Switchbacks, the volunteer chaplain. Kind of you started in your role in February, and it's always a work in progress. Each team is different. Each of our chaplains has a unique skill set. They've got time considerations and the other work and family things that they've got going on. But what's this first season, as you kind of are getting toward the end of season now? What's it been like for you? How would you say like it's felt, and what's been some of the things that have been blessings or surprises that are good, and things that have been challenges that you've had to work through that maybe you didn't see from the outset because I didn't tell you about them very well.
Well, I will say that it is so much fun. It's one of the highlights of my week to be able to go down there and just engage with the players, engage with the staff, build connections, build relationships, and coming in as the new guy and taking over for a guy that was a staple as the chaplain at Switchbacks. I really just wanted to build connection. I wanted to build relationship. I wanted the players and the staff to know that I'm there. I'm not going anywhere. I'm consistent. I want to invest in them and be a resource to them, regardless of their faith. I value them as an individual, and when they can see that there's a trust factor there, there's a consistency, there's a reliability, there's an opportunity for them to share, knowing that it's in confidentiality. That's really been at the heart of what I've done this year, is establishing rapport, building consistency, and making small connections. And so each time I go down, I really pray, who do you have for me to connect with? What's that one player or that one staff member that needs a connection? And I will say that almost every week, there's at least one person that I walk away saying, that was who I was there for. That was the connection that I wanted and that I believe they needed. And so you kind of go in with an open mind and an open door saying, okay, where do you have me, God? Who are you going to lead me to? And that's exciting. That's really something that I look forward to, and hopefully that they see that I do care, that I am interested in them, and I want to continue the relationship even beyond those small moments that I have when I'm with them.
Yeah, it's always amazing to me that it could be, one week it could be an athlete, next week it could be a coach or a ticket salesperson. It could be the security guard that just works part-time at the stadium, that you get into this engaged conversation, and they're curious about what is it that you do around here, and why do you keep showing up with bagels, or whatever that thing is, and you get a chance to explain. And I even remember that this year there's been a new security guard kind of changeover in the front area, and I've learned that he enjoys a double espresso. So if I think about it, if if there's a coffee moment, I'll remember to bring a double espresso for Derek, and it's just that little moment, and we've gotten to know each other just a little bit more through the little 4 and 5 minute conversations that we get to have, on my way in to work, and maybe some of the group things that I'm leading. But yeah, those special moments, we never know where the Lord's leading us and like how that conversation is going to go, but it really ends up being some beautiful, beautiful fruit. Well, hey friends, we're going to take a short break. We've got a soccer devotional you might be interested in the upcoming season of Advent. And I'll be right back with my conversation with Jason Rollins. Hello, everyone. Rev Brad here. I want to quickly tell you about our devotional book, The Light is Coming. Back in 2022, 3 of us with Soccer Chaplains United, Jordan Meadis, Kurt Trempert, and myself, came together to write a devotional for the Men's World Cup. Since then, we've come out with a revised version to make the Devo a bit more timeless. The Light is Coming covers 8 weeks with 3 different readings each week. We've got themes like waiting, joy, peace, love, and more. The Light is Coming. Check it out. It's available on Amazon. You can get it in paperback or Kindle format, and you can read this individually or use it as a small group or team study. If you're looking for some resources for your team, send us an email. We can work out a bulk deal too. The Light is Coming. See how faith can transform our football. Well, Jason, share with us some of the difference. You work as the athletic director for Colorado Springs Christian Schools, and so I imagine you've worked with a lot of athletes in those 10 years, and so now you're working with athletes at this sort of second division pro soccer team. Probably too, you've seen them from a distance as you've understood Kurt and his work a little bit. But share with us, what are some of the similarities with the work you do with the student athletes at Colorado Springs Christian, and then some of the athletes at the club? Do you see similarities? Do you see differences? Are there some things that kind of translate over, some things that you incorporate as just you are having these conversations, these moments, and coming alongside and caring for people?
Yeah, I think, when I look at the athlete here at high school and then I look at the athlete at the professional level, there are some differences. There's an added pressure that these guys face in performing and trying to get the playing time, trying to earn another contract. Their livelihood is at stake. And that's a big separator. That's a big difference than what I see within the amateur high school athlete. But then there's some commonalities. There's everyday struggles that they face. There's situations that they're dealing with outside of the environment of sport, and that plays a role in how they operate and how they function and how they can perform. And so we go to sporting events, and when we go to a professional sporting events, oftentimes we see these athletes competing at a high level, and we just almost see them as robotic, right? We see them as just machines, and we don't realize that they have emotions and feelings and frustration and tension that are behind the scenes that many times people don't see. And as I start to interact with athletes and the players at Switchbacks, I start to see the human side of a professional athlete. And I think that, has reminded me as I've been in this role that as I watch them compete, as I watch professional athletes on TV, that there's a human side to them as well. And we oftentimes separate that. And that's really a disservice to them, because we really need to see them as a holistic person that has struggles just like we do. And so yeah, there's changes, there's similarities, and there's differences, and it's unique to see those differences, but also really neat to see the similarities and how there's not that much difference when we talk about the full person of an athlete.
Yeah. I think it's important to humanize, especially the athlete, because as you use the word robotic, I'm putting athletes into my fantasy team, right? I'm seeing these stars, we're looking at highlight reels, or we're looking at gaffes and bloopers, and we're just, we build up these stories about them. And I think that's part of what comes with the game. The criticisms that come over social media and those other things, but I'm telling you, when you're in our shoes, when you see behind the scenes, I often am standing in the stands or with even other staff, and you and I may know the story about why is this player performing so poorly. We might know a million different reasons about why that is. It could be some of these pressures. It could be that, they're concerned their partner or their spouse is pregnant and they're about to give birth. There's so many little things that aren't out there for public knowledge that sometimes the chaplain gets to hold that space, that intimate secret uh, piece, and we just have to carry that. And it becomes a burden too. I think that we get to carry alongside the athlete as we pray for them or support them in whatever part of the journey they're in and whatever pressure that they're facing. Jason, for you, sometimes we see athletes, and we live in Colorado, right? So we get to cheer on the Broncos. I don't know, are the Broncos a thing for you, or coming from Illinois, like, do you follow NFL at all?
I follow NFL, but I've told you this before. I follow athletes, and so I really very few teams are like I follow that team. I really gravitate towards specific athletes that I like, that I enjoy watching play, and so naturally as I become the chaplain for the Switchbacks, I'm more engaged in the Switchbacks team because I know the players.
Sure,
I
sure.
know them relationally. I have a connection with them. And when I have a connection with a player or something that draws me to that player, uh, I like to watch the team.
Yeah, and we go through these moments with people. Like it's funny because my family are pretty devout Bronco fans, but I'm pretty critical of the team and how poorly they've done the last number of years. And everybody's like, "Why are you so critical?" But I have distance, right? And I feel like I don't have to like love on them as much as you do because yeah, they're not my I'm not working with them in the same way. We're not
Right.
sweating and going through all those things with them. But I do find too that even as we look at pro sports and the sports landscape, we might say in Colorado, sometimes it can be difficult because there's this pecking order, right? The Broncos seem to dominate so much of the conversation in terms of news or people's attention, and then I've known for years as the Rapids volunteer chaplain, people are like, "Who are the Rapids? What is that?" And so sometimes there's a space too where you even have to fight for acknowledgement or relevance. And I wonder what's that been like down in Colorado Springs because, you have the Olympic Training Center down there. You have Sky Sox, right? The baseball team has been down there. Like where are the switchbacks just in terms of trying to get into that conversational space around the Monday or Monday morning water cooler kind of thing?
Yeah, it's interesting. I think the growth of the Switchbacks has really been prominent in the past few years with the building of their facility, the Switchback Stadium, Widener Field, and being downtown and being really easy to access off the interstate. I think the Switchbacks are starting to see a bigger following. They're starting to see people coming out more than they used to have. Part of that is the access, part of that is just the environment and the culture that they're creating of community. And as I talk with the staff, I find that many of the people that come to watch the Switchbacks game maybe don't even know anything about soccer, right? They just enjoy the environment. They enjoy
Yeah.
the community feel. And there's not a bad seat in the house at that stadium. And it's a really unique environment where regardless of whether you like the game or not, it's entertaining, it's fun, it's a great place to be, it's a great place to take your family. And I think that's starting to catch wind. I think the city is starting to embrace the Switchbacks as their pro team here in the city, and not so much because they're good or because they're so amazing, but because the Switchbacks know how to really invite community into their space. And that's really a mission that they have is to reach the community, to be a connector for people. And that's really encouraging for me to see that the Switchbacks organization is really keen on building community within our city. And as you start to build more community and make that a place where people can go and connect, then you're going to see people flourishing. You're going to see people embracing the organization and what they have to offer and the environment that really is beneficial for people to be able to feel like they belong and they're a part of something.
Yeah, for the Switchbacks, because I mean, actually, it was in 2015 that that Kurt came on and became chaplain. He was one of our first placements as we kind of grew out, or as I left church ministry and stepped more into this role. Kurt was one of the first that we had in USL Championship, and it was really amazing. But it's been neat to watch. And I know it's not been easy for the organization, but over the 10 years, the stadium was kind of more out on the fringe of the city. And now that it's moved in, it feels like, again, that there's this momentum being built around a moment to come to the stadium. The place where it is more conducive for getting to it and just creating this environment and this space that feels fun and inviting. And I know it's been a journey for the ownership group to you got to go through all those things and get approvals from the city council and get the land built up, and being at Widener Field's been an amazing experience. And so what an enjoyable thing for you. I know Kurt had to suffer through some of those years of driving way out to Powers Road and being in this sort of temporary stadium, but what a joy and enjoyment. And it's neat to see success for not just the owners, but also for the city too, to adopt and say, like, this is our team, our city, our team. And I think that's been one of their logos and or their mottos and mantras. So it's kind of neat to join into that. So at what point, Jason, did you become a Switchbacks fan at some point? Or again, being kind of one person that's more into a particular athlete, at what point did the Switchbacks even get your attention?
I had been to numerous Switchbacks games over the years, and there obviously, as a coach, I've taken my teams to Switchback games, done different group outings, and so I haven't been one of those that have been at every game. I'm a diehard fan, but I've watched from a distance. And for me, as an athletic director and a coach, my time is pretty occupied with sports, and so don't always have the time to be able to invest in an organization and be committed to being a fan like some diehard fans are.
Sure.
But obviously at the at the start of this, becoming a chaplain, and again sharing with you how I really get invested with organizations once I begin to build the relationships and build those connections. Now I'm a diehard fan. Now
Nice.
I'm all in.
Nice.
Because again, I know these people. They're not just people off at a distance that are running a show or running an event. They're people that have families and have stories and have unique situations. And so for me, that just having that underlining understanding and that depth of layer to the organization as a whole just invites me even more to be a part of what they're doing and the mission that they have.
So Jason, you're following on in the footsteps of probably one of our longer tenured chaplains. Kurt served 9 seasons for Switchbacks before moving on late last year. Sometimes it can be difficult to follow in someone else's shoes because they've developed pattern or they have this presence. What's it been like for you to kind of cultivate or craft your own identity as a chaplain, your own method of serving? Like Kurt one time shared a story with me that he and one of the captains early on said they would host a Bible study group, and they would say they had burritos there, and they would say, like, you're welcome to come get a burrito, anyone on the team, but if you stay for Bible study, you get a whole burrito. So you come in, you just poke your head in the door, say hi, you get half a burrito and you can go. But if you stay, you get a whole burrito, which I thought that's kind of funny and ingenious in the same sense. But what's it been like for you? Maybe share with us. What are things, has there been anything that from Kurt's work and ministry with the team that you've carried over and you've said, hey, this is a great thing? And has there been a new space that you've been able to step into and kind of make it your own, kind of bring your own identity to that work?
Yeah, as I took over for Kurt, I really leaned in on him on certain things. Like what was it like here? Who did you connect with? Who are people that can be, of a point of contact for me as I start to build my rapport and my relationship with them. And so part of it was understanding a little bit about the inner workings behind the scenes that I'm not aware of. And part of it is just what's worked, what's been good, what's been fruitful for you as you've interacted with the players and staff. And so part of it, I was like, oh yeah, that's good, I'm going to do that. And then part of it is just figuring it out. It's a new group, it's a new team, and anyone that works with professional sports knows that there's a revolving door of players that come in and out, and staff that come in and out. There's just always a turnover.
Yeah.
And so the team that I'm working with and the staff that I'm working with now is far different from even 2 years ago that Kurt dealt with. So I think that ushers in a new opportunity to do things a little bit differently, and just infuse my personality and my way of connecting with players and with staff. And so Kurt was wonderful because he really said, here's what I did, but go do it your way. He was really adamant that it's you've got to do it to the style that's best for you, and not the Kurt Trimpert way. But obviously he paved the way for me. He really, he left something that was good, not bad. And I was able to just pick up where he left off and then do it in a different way and in a different style. And again, I've been slow with this. I don't want to be like guns blazing, all in, doing crazy amount of work. I just want to be present. That's been my focus as I've gone down there, just to be present, just to be intentional about making eye contact, asking them about who they are, asking questions. All I do is ask questions all the time. And because I want them to know that I'm interested in them. I'm curious to get to know them. And then as doors open for me to serve them outside of that window of time that I'm with them, then I embrace that, I invite that, and I look for those opportunities. And my wife and I are exploring, hey, how do we do a pre-Thanksgiving meal, right? Obviously they've got a place that they can go most likely on Thanksgiving Day, and everyone has their place where they do traditionally. But what about doing something before? Let's feed them twice, right?
Yeah.
And professional athletes love to eat because they consume a lot of energy throughout a day. So let's feed them, right? And so when you're able to break bread with somebody, those are opportunities really to connect and build stronger bonds.
Oh, Jason, so true. And the food aspect, we don't think about it, but especially at USL Championship and some of the lower leagues, food becomes really important because it's a mainstay of helping those athletes, eat well and consume those calories that they need to perform well. And I'll never forget in my early days serving the Rapids, guys weren't on a very high wage, and I offered to take a guy to Chipotle, and I was in seminary myself, so I didn't have much funds, but I said, hey man, get whatever you want. And he ordered 2 burritos, and I thought, oh, okay, maybe he's ordering one for dinner. But he ate both of them in front of me, and I thought, man, one of those is going in one leg, and the other one's going in the other leg. And it's just, but it's a real beautiful thing. And I can picture almost this Ted Lasso, Higgins moment where you have all these athletes around a long table in your home, and you're breaking bread, and those become the special moments where we share life with some of these people that God's allowed us to be able to serve, and some of them coming from different cultures and countries and family situations. We get to have them sometimes in our homes and around a table and breaking bread together and just sharing and reflecting the love of Jesus to them. That becomes a tremendous honor and privilege. So, well, good on you for coming up with the pre-Thanksgiving idea. I love it. No, we're going to pause the conversation there. It's been a good one so far, but next week is part 2. We're going to find out a little bit more about Jason's life and ministry. We're going to get into a game with crosses with Rev. Always a fun little moment for me to play with guests that are on the podcast. We'll see how Jason does. Just want to take a minute too. Jason does raise a little bit of money for his expenditures, the work he's doing with the team. So if you want to support that, just go to our website or click on the PushPay logo and link. You'll find a fund labeled Colorado Springs Switchbacks, and that is to support Jason and the work that he does there. Also, friends, I want to take just a minute and say, if you've been listening to the podcast for a while, would you take a minute, give us a rating, a review, whatever platform you're listening to? That kind of helps our profile, helps us know folks are listening, and we really enjoy that. So make sure you tune in again next week, same day, same time. This has been Rev Brad coming to you from the Touchline.